Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we're going to be going over the first of my new series. I'm not sure entirely what I'm going to call this series yet, but the aim here is to create a whole bunch of essentially precons of cards that you're able to go pick up, a whole bunch of singles, build up this deck here, and be able to essentially play it like a precon would. The aim is to have them more enabled and more kind of aimed towards newer players, so that way newer players are able to pick them up, start learning the game, and kind of have a very easy kind of jumping on point. Nowadays, precons are getting a little bit more advanced, a little bit more kind of confusing, especially for those newer players. So while I don't suggest Commander be where you kind of start learning and start playing, Magic the Gathering altogether, unless you've got a lot of help out there, it is a kind of great way to kind of start stepping from that kind of learner beginner box stuff into playing, the actual Commander that most people are playing and most people are loving. So the first one here we're going to be looking at is Dinosaurs. I figured the best kind of start for a newer player is a very simple kind of Naya-esque, or Naya is red, green, white. A very kind of simple, straightforward green stompy deck, some big creatures that you're going to, play big creatures out, and you're going to go just turn them sideways and attack people. It's very, very simple, very kind of straightforward here. Now, there is actually an existing Naya red, green, white Dinosaurs precon that you can purchase, which is the Pantlaza Velociraptors one from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. However, that is harder to find, more expensive than built basically any kind of, other precon. It's one of the most expensive precons from the kind of modern day. And overall, there's some stuff in there that's kind of a little bit kind of more advanced or a little bit kind of trickier for newer players. So this is aiming towards being more simple, more kind of straightforward, as well as kind of, aiming towards also being a lot kind of cheaper here. So this turned out to be around $60 currently, if you were to go purchase the singles for it. And there is some stuff that I'll suggest down below for potential upgrades and everything. I'm not going to tell you which cards to potentially remove. If you guys want to know that in the future kind of videos like this, let me know. But currently I'm just kind of aiming towards cards that you can add later on. So for our commander here, we're going to be focusing around Gishath Sun's Avatar. So they are an 8 cost, so that's kind of rather expensive. However, the deck does have a few ways to be able to ramp, basically, get more lands out, as well as enabling you to reduce the cost of your dinosaurs. They are a big vigilance, trample, and haste. So therefore, you're aiming to just attack and hit people with Gishath here. And whenever Gishath does deal combat damage to a player, so that's if they weren't blocked or you blocked and managed to get some trample damage through, you're going to reveal that many cards from the top of your library. You can put any number of dinosaurs from them onto the battlefield. So, you reveal, let's say you hit and you get 7, right? You reveal 7 cards from the top of your library. Let's say you get 2 dinosaurs in there. You just get to grab those and put them straight onto the battlefield. They don't get to attack that turn or anything unless you get some extra combats if you add in cards like that. But they are there ready to either block or be able to attack on the next turn. The rest of those go to the bottom of your library. So it's just a way to be able to cheat out and get huge dragons out and get your dragons kind of rolling. Very similar to the new Tarkir commander that's around around dragons. There's a very similar thing, except Gishath is even stronger because Gishath is going to put out any number of dinosaurs rather than just one. So into our artifacts here, we've got our kind of classic artifact mana rocks here with Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and the Fell War Stone. Now, one thing you'll notice is that I didn't add any kind of talismans or many other mana rocks. That's because we are in green. Green is the kind of color based around getting big creatures out. And to do that, they typically will ramp, which is going to be getting out a bunch of lands, as I said earlier. So we don't necessarily need as kind of many mana rocks because we're going to be able to just kind of ramp out, get a whole bunch of lands out, etc. We've also got Swiftfoot Boots. Now, this is important to, one, give haste to something if you want it to, or we could use it to protect our commander here, because if our commander gets removed, we're going to have to cast it again. We'd rather just kind of keep our commander around. We got the Progenitors icon here. We can make it so that, well, it's a mana rock here that we can use, as well as it can give the next spell you cast flash. So that means that you can cast it on any person's turn. At any time you could cast an instant spell, which is great to be able to kind of flash out or get a very sneaky kind of creature out either right before our turn, so that way it can attack on our turn, or we could use it as a blocker. We've also got the monster manual here. We can pay 1 and a green and tap this to put a creature card from our hand onto the battlefield. Again, you know, we've got some really big, costly dragons. I was going to say dragons, dinosaurs in this deck. So enabling us to be able to just pay 1 and a green to be able to put one of those out onto the battlefield is huge, right? Like that's just absolutely crazy. Into our creatures, most of our creatures you're going to notice are either dragons or ways to be able to make dragons cheaper. We've got Ixali's Lawkeeper here, which enables us as a kind of mana dork. So that means that it taps for mana. This one here just taps for mana that you can only cast on a dinosaur spell or use it on a ability of a dinosaur source. So again, you know, we can cast this, we're going to be able to tap it, and that's going to give us a mana that we can use towards our dinosaurs here. We've got a couple dinosaur cost reducers here with Kinjali's Caller and the Tepec Huntmaster. Most of our dinosaurs here are all going to kind of synergize kind of well together, or just be kind of big, stompy dinosaurs that we can throw at people. One that's really nice here is the Scytheclaw Raptor. It's going to make it so that if someone casts a spell and it's not their turn, you're going to deal 4 damage to them. The great thing is that in our deck, we're not going to be casting spells on other people's turns most of the time, so it's going to deal more damage to everyone else than it should be to us. We've got the Sunfrill Imitator here as well, which is a great card. So when it attacks, you can have it become a copy of another target dragon you control. Sorry, dinosaur. I keep saying dragon. Dinosaur. You copy a dinosaur you control, except it will have the name Sunfrill Imitator and it has this ability. So you can have this attack and then become a copy of our commander, Gishath. Therefore, we're going to have 2 Gishaths. And then that means that if either of them deal damage to people, we're going to get to pump out a whole bunch of dragons from our deck. The Kinjali Sun King is a Sun Wing here is great as well, because it's going to make all creatures our opponents control enter tapped, which means that they can't block. Most of the rest of the dinosaurs, not dragons, here are just going to be synergizing around kind of either getting more cards, so Curious Ultraraptor gets more cards, more mana with the Hulkling Raptor, and then we do have some of these other cards like the Ripjaw Raptor here that have Enrage on them. I think it may be the only one, or the Bellowing Aegisaur here has Enrage as well. Those are great because anytime an enraged creature is dealt damage, you're going to draw a card, and then stuff like the Raging Regisaur can deal 1 damage to any target. You can deal a damage to your Ripjaw Raptor here, and then draw a card from it. It's good. Sawhorn Nemesis, if someone's dealing, you know, more damage or really running around with the game, you can play the Sawhorn Nemesis, target them, and then any damage that is dealt to them, they or a permanent they control, so any of their creatures as well, that's going to deal double that damage, which is great. Polani's Hatcher here is going to give all our dinosaurs haste so they can attack on the turn they come out. We've got Pantlaza here, which is the commander from the actual Precon, and I didn't have it as a commander here because I felt like I would rather go with Gishath. Pantlaza is going to make it so that when Pantlaza or any other dragon, dinosaur, enters the battlefield under your control, you're going to discover X. So discover means that you're going to exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with mana value, with that mana value. So in this example, it's their toughness. So if you play Pantlaza, it'll be 4. And then you get to play that card without paying its mana cost, and all the other cards will go to the bottom of your library. Or you can put it into your hand. You don't need to cast it. So this is just going to get us extra value from all of our dinosaurs entering the battlefield. It also enters the battlefield, not when you cast it. So if Gishath goes and attacks, deals combat damage to someone, and then you get to cheat out a dinosaur from that, you're then going to be able to use Pantlaza to be able to discover as well. More haste from the Regisaur Alpha here. The Temple Altasaur to protect us. Our dinosaurs will only take 1 damage because all the rest of the damage gets prevented on them. The Dinosaurs on Spaceship is a great one. So this actually came from the Doctor Who set. It's going to give all our dinosaurs +1/+1, so they get a +1 power and +1 toughness, as well as vigilance and trample. So that means that they don't need to tap to when they attack, and they also will just trample through, so any extra damage gets dealt to the person that you're attacking. But the better part about this is you can actually suspend this. So you're going to put it over into exile with 4 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, you remove one of those time counters, and then you're going to create a 2/2 red and white dinosaur creature with flying and haste. So this is essentially going to be like 4 dinosaurs in one that then comes out and becomes this huge dinosaur buffing thing. It's really cool. Most of the other dragon, blah, 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 blah. Most of the other dinosaurs here are pretty kind of straightforward, just some kind of, you know, buff up things. You could potentially use the Zakama as your commander as well if you wanted to. Realistically, there's like 3 different commanders in here with Zakama, Pantlaza, and then Gishath. And then Golta is great because of the fact that we're going to be able to reduce so easily reduce the cost of Golta, thanks to the fact that our dinosaurs are going to have huge power. All right, into our enchantments here. Our enchantments are mostly around just kind of, you know, buffing up our dinosaurs here, whether it's Descendants Path, cheating out dinosaurs as well. We've got Garrix giving them all trample. Poetic Ingenuity is really cool because we get to create treasures every time we attack, and each of those treasures is essentially a free mana. Rising of the Day, boom, now all of our creatures have haste, which is good. Monstrous Vortex, if you cast a creature card with power 5 or greater, which we have dinosaurs, they all have power 5 or greater. Well, not all of them. A lot of them have power 5 or greater. We're going to discover. So therefore, you know, we're going to get to do that same thing I said about with Pantlaza earlier. And then the Warstorm Surge, now whenever a creature enters, it's going to deal damage equal to its power to any target. So we can just burn people down with that. Our instants are just mostly removal with the Path to the Exile, the Swords to Plowshares, the Generous Gift, and the Heritage Reclamation, all kind of great removals. And then return of the Wild Speaker here for a big buff as well as some card draw. The actual lands are very kind of straightforward. The lands are actually going to be better than you would see in a lot of precons, which is one great thing about building your own precon is that you can put better lands in it. Preferably, we want things that are going to be coming in untapped, and yeah, that's basically it. We want them to be coming in untapped. And then our sorceries here are just a whole bunch of different ramp cards. So we've got like 5 different cards in here that are going to get us more basic lands out onto the battlefield, which is great. We've got Chain Reaction as a board wipe as well as Austere Command, both great board wipes. Chain Reaction is good because of the fact that it's potentially not even going to kill all of our creatures, and Austere Command as well because we can wipe out all creatures with mana value 3 or less. A lot of our dinosaurs are going to be mana value 4 or greater, so we can just wipe out everyone else's stuff. Rishtar's Expertise, just a bunch of card draw and then cast something for free. And then Tooth and Nail. So typically in a precon, you won't see any kind of tutors. I included one in here because I thought that would be a very interesting kind of thing to start introducing beginners to kind of look through your library and find your 2 best creature cards. The great thing about it is that as long as you've got a list of like your 5 best creature cards, as soon as you start kind of looking through your deck, you'll be able to look for them. And that way, you know, you've got your 5 best ones, and then say you've drawn 2 of those, now you've got your 3 best ones, and you can just choose from them. So it starts teaching you a little bit about your deck. You've got that there, as well as even if you aren't kind of confident with your deck yet, you can use this secondary part here to just put 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. All right, now as for getting into some upgrades you can do for later on, we've got a couple great lands here, Cavern of Souls or 3 Tree City. Both are great for any deck that is built around a certain creature type, this one being built around, you know, dinosaurs. And this is going to enable you to either create a huge amount of mana with the 3 Tree City, or this one here, it enables you to be able to make it so your creatures can't be countered, your dinosaurs won't be countered, which is great. Rhythm of the Wild is a better version of a lot of creature cards, a lot of enchantments that are going to give haste. This one here can either give haste or a +1/+1 counter. Also makes it so creatures can't be countered. Hunting Velociraptor, insane card in this deck. It's going to make it so that as long as you have dealt combat damage to a player with one of your dinosaurs, which is very easy to do, dinosaurs are huge, you get to cast any of your dinosaurs for 2 and a red. Oh boy, it's absolutely bonkers. We've got Achroma's Will here as a big finisher. Ravenous Tyrannosaur here as another big dinosaur you can put on. Silverclad Ferocidor, another big dino. Vault-born Tyrant. Most of these big dinos are just going to replace dinos that you've already got in here. They're just going to be better versions of them, realistically. Golter as well is another huge dino. The Last March of the Ants to cheat a huge amount of things out and draw a huge amount of creatures. Blasphemous Act is a better board wipe than some of the other board wipes that we added in here. The Skullspore Nexus means that whenever our dinosaurs die, we're going to create another dinosaur from it. And then finally, the Great Henge is crazy. One of the best mana rocks for any deck that is going to have big creatures in it. So now we're going to be able to tap, add 2 green and 2 life. It's cheaper to cast based off of the amount of power that we've got in our creatures. We're going to have huge creatures here. And then also you get to put a +1/+1 counter on any dinosaurs that are entering and draw a card. Sorry, any non-token dinosaurs. So this is actually going to be a very, very interesting, very straightforward deck. You're going to be playing your dinosaurs out. You're going to be attacking with your dinosaurs. The big thing about it is just kind of making sure that you've got a lot of mana up, which you're going to have a lot of, and then just casting out your dinosaurs and attacking in with them. There's a few different dinosaurs in here that you're going to have to kind of learn some interesting things with. But again, as I said, it's kind of very straightforward. I think that, you know, once you kind of have learnt the kind of basics of Magic the Gathering, you can play this deck pretty easily. There are some things you may have to look up on the fly, but most people that you're going to be playing with won't mind if, you know, you read a card and you're like, let me just quickly double check what this one little kind of keyword does, because most of this is straightforward. It's just kind of one keyword here and there that you may need to just kind of look up, but I kind of aimed towards with it just keeping the keywords around the same kind of thing. Like, you know, discover. We've got a few different things in here that do discover. We've got a few different things in here that, you know, have cost reductions and stuff, but mostly it is going to be very, very straightforward, very easy to pick up, very easy to play. And, you know, I think that most beginners should be perfectly fine with this deck. So I'd love to hear from you guys as to what you think, and what kind of, you know, beginner decks would you like to see me build in the future. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.